Okay. Okay. I wanted to put it big. Can you see?
Yes, brother.
Yes, but it's not as a presentation. Sorry, let me remove it a moment because I wanted to put it. Okay. All right. So what I wish to tell you is just a few ideas about this period of temporary vows as a period in preparation to mission, thinking that it is a period of formation for what you will do later. Of course, in the Ratio Formationis, you find very well explained the period of temporary vows towards perpetual profession in number 230 and following. But I'm not going to follow exactly the the times of the period of temporary vows, but rather look at the contents, especially this formation that you will have and that you have during the period of temporary vows. What are the requirements? What are the experiences that you are supposed to go through? What are the efforts that you have to put? And we start from the constitutions. Our constitutions, number 95, say that the period of temporary vows is much more than simply the studies after the vows. Usually we have the habit of saying, okay, there is novitiate, then there are studies, and then there is final vows, diaconate, and so on. No, it's not studies. In this period, according to the constitutions, there is acquiring strength. The confrere strengthens himself in the spirit of piety, sacrifice, and zeal. There is integration, assimilation, assimilates the spirit of the founder and the values. So becoming an adult Guanellian. You strengthen yourself to become an adult person. If you continue being adolescent during this stage, it becomes difficult to live well later. You integrate the values and the spirit into your life in order to become an adult Guanellian. You progress in living the vows. The vows, once you pronounce them, you're just pronouncing them. But then living them day after day becomes a bit more difficult, and you have to find a way to do it. And then you start serving. He engages in apostolic service. That is, you become an adult servant. So a full person, fully man, fully Guanellian, fully consecrated, fully servant. This is what you're supposed to be by the time you finish this period. It is a period of growth, of education, of formation. And here I think we have to try to figure out the meaning of these words. I tried to cut part of what I had to say because of the time, and I don't want to stress you too much. But this part, I think, is quite important. Growth is simply a natural process. You grow in size, you grow in understanding, you grow because of experiences in abilities. It's just something that goes on its own. And it can go well or less well. A tree, if you make a tree grow in a place where there is shadow, the tree will go crooked, not straight, but by the side, looking for the light. So growth can go in any way. Education and formation are two different aspects that try to bring out the best in the process of growth of a person. I hope you know very well that in our understanding, education does not mean instruction. An educated person is not somebody that has gone through tertiary studies, through universities. In English, unfortunately, we talk about education, about studies, but in our Guanellian way, education is a different process. What is education? Education is to bring out the potentials of the persons, to help people to grow to their possible best. This is the meaning of education. Take out the potentials that are in the person. And to grow in which way? This is something that we borrow from Don Bosco, to grow to their possible best as human beings, first of all, fully man, members of society, Don Bosco used to say good citizens, and children of God. The three values, the value of the full person, physically, emotionally, and intellectually, the values of the relational person, member of a society, the values of a spiritual person that finds of his being a child of God. This is education. Bring out the good things that are in a person. The process you are undergoing now is more a process of formation. Formation is different. Form is a shape. So formation is to take the person as the person is and to try to give it a shape, to give it the form that is needed for the work of his vocation, what God has chosen for this person. You see that the process is quite different. And I think it is something you should try to keep in mind, because you surely will have some potentials, some abilities, some capabilities that you could develop, and maybe you would like to develop, but maybe they are not needed for the life as a Guanellian. You cannot and you must not ask the formators to develop those abilities. If you are able to be a circus man, if this is not needed in our, or if you're able to, I don't know, to be a pilot of an airplane, if it is not needed, you cannot ask your superiors, I would like to have the license to pilot the planes. So formation is in order of what you are going to be as a Guanellian. Now, the three aspects, the Ratio Formationis says that the dynamism of formation are to educate, to form, and to accompany. Educate, bring out the potentials of the person, because you cannot ask a donkey to be an airplane. Each one will have his own potentials and has to move according to his own potentials. To form, in order to use well the abilities for the work that God has chosen for us. And then to accompany, because moments of difficulties, problems, and so on come always, and there may be need of accompaniment. So the three aspects of educating, forming, and accompanying are always present in every time during our formation, but they have greater or smaller importance in the different stages. Before the vows, the most important thing is to educate, to bring out your values, your potentials, your abilities. Why? Because if you find out that your values, your potentials, your abilities are not generally the ones that are needed for the Guanelians, you may still choose not to become a Guanelian. During the temporary vows, the work is much more that of formation, because, okay, you find out that somehow you can fit in. Now you have to do the trimming, to do the work of making the little tree grow in the way it will bring fruit, and the fruit you want. After the final vows, it is not so much a matter of forming. There is still formation, but it is more a matter of accompanying, because after the final vows, there will be the problems coming from outside, the failures coming from inside, and there will be need of restarting afresh. So the three aspects are always present: educate, form, and accompany, but actually they can have different importance in different moments. In this particular moment of the temporary vows, the work of formation is quite important. That is what also Ratio Formationis said. There is need to gather the fruits of the previous stage, so to bring out what has come out from the education, but consolidate the vocational identity. Put all your values in the right order that they will be used for this vocation, for the vocation of the servants of charity, to become a living stone in the structure of the Institute. The state of life has already been chosen. You already have chosen to be chaste, poor, and obedient. You already have chosen to live in community with your confreres. You already have chosen to become a servant. It is a matter of being strengthened to become really a living stone in this. So in this period, sorry, it's better you give me a feedback. Are you understanding well? Because also my language may not be easy. Am I going too fast? Yes, please tell me. You're saying okay. What does that hand mean? Okay. So this period of temporary vows, here I must say I had a full part about our mission, which I removed now, because I hope somebody else has spoken of mission to you, and I'm sure somebody has spoken of mission to you. So I said, let me not make them too tired at this time of the day. So I go directly on what I said in the title. There are some requirements to be fulfilled, given us by our rule or by the code of canon law sometimes. There are experiences which you should really go through and internalize, making the experience part of your life. And there are efforts that you have to do. It is not a matter, in the part about mission, I had put also something about the actions of the formators. And the formators have a lot to do. But maybe we will leave this for the formators. Now, for you who are in formation, we will focus more on the efforts you have to put. And so we start with the requirements. What are the requirements? They are not very many. The duration, the period of temporary vows must not be less than 3 years. Ooh, I wrote 3 instead of 3. Sorry, I forgot an H. 3 to 6 years. Please, I was in the Dicastery of the Vatican not long ago, and I was scolded by them because they told us that too often we prolong the period. The period of temporary vows should be 3 to 6 years, not generally prolonged. And it makes sense, actually. It makes sense because when you are engaged with a girl, if you are engaged for too long, probably the marriage will not function well. You need to have the enthusiasm to enter into the marriage, really. And the same thing is for us. So generally, the duration must not be less than 3 and not more than 6 years. The stages, this is also a requirement. Now, the duration is a requirement that comes from canon law. The stages is a requirement that comes from our proper law of our congregation. We have a period of post-novitiate immediately after that must be lived in a community of formation, in a formative community. We have a period of regency called tirocinium, called practicum, called in many ways, but in any case, at least 1 year of practical experience, which must be lived in a house of activity, doing a typical Guanellian activity. And we have the period of immediate preparation to perpetual profession and to the diaconate and the holy orders for those who become priests. These are requirements typical, especially of our congregation, just like many other congregations, in the sense that active life and our typical style of acting life is part of our consecration, is part of our life. If you don't go to the test for a long period during the moment of formation, it will be difficult to really say that you are formed to our life. The objective is, once again, what we saw before, to be a man of God, to become adult, to integrate faith, your dedication to God, knowledge, learning, you're supposed to study, and service. To put them together, integrate, is something very important, because it is not a matter of doing actions of faith, learning something in school, and doing some experiences of apostolate. That is not the matter. The matter is that in the future, in your life as a Guanelian, you must be able to do things with a spirit of faith, make choices in a spirit of faith, to have knowledge and continue increasing your knowledge, not simply passing the exams, but really learning about life and about whatever is around you, and to serve. The three aspects are supposed to be there. It's not that because they send you with the good children and you are serving the good children, you must not learn anymore. Or you must forget God because already you are serving the good children. So the integration is one of the main objectives in order to assume the Guanelian mission. And we go to the experiences. What are the experiences you are supposed to live during this period? I put them under 5 titles. First of all, an experience of God. Later we will see them one by one. Then there is the experience of learning. You are supposed to study and to really put effort in your studies. Then comes the experience of fraternity. You're supposed to live with others, not live side by side with others, but to live with others. The experience of being guided. If you don't learn how to follow directions and also how to obey during years, not simply in little moments, you will do little good in our congregation. And the experience of service. So, experience of God, experience of learning, experience of fraternity, experience of being guided, experience of service. Experience of God. What do I mean by this? I think it is important to have your style, to have your own personal contact with God. I'm sure you are already praying every day. I'm sure you are already somehow having many moments of prayer. This is not the experience of God. This may be means, but the experience of God is really feeling that He is present in your lives, in your lives. His presence, He is present in your life because He gives you so much, the presence of God provident, because He's telling you, do this, don't do that. This is the presence of God in your life. He may be present as providence and as God will through the superiors, through the confreres, through the people you meet, but you must arrive to the point that you feel His presence. Otherwise, your vows will not be of any value. If your vows are simply a duty, there's no need, no mean. Your vows are supposed to be an expression of love. And love is for somebody who is present in your life. So this is why it becomes important practically to have your own personal schedule and style of prayer. If your prayer is simply a duty, now we go for Vespers, now we go for evening prayer, now there is meditation, now there is lectio, now there is, this is a duty. I cannot go and meet my wife because it is my duty. If you choose God, you must have your own moments that you do, not because it is a community room. I'm not saying that you have to run away from community moments to do your own prayer. But if you don't have your own way to address God, you are not yet really in touch with him. Even though you profess the vows, you're not yet consecrated to him. So a real experience of God. A real experience of learning. Remember that we are talking about an experience of learning in the aspect of formation. So we are still in formation to the Guanellian mission. But your studies are important. Don't joke with your studies. Don't joke with your studies, especially in learning what is needed. I don't know if there you receive by mail, by internet, the magazine Pagine Guanelliane. It is a magazine of the Centro Studi Guanelliani in Rome. There is an article, and I invite you, if you can find a way, ask Father Rajesh or whatever to get it, because it's written in English. I prepared a little study about what Don Guanella thought about higher studies. Should we study or should we not study? Should we learn or not? Should we become scholars or not? I just invite you to try to figure out that and to read that article. Experience of fraternity. Experience of fraternity, sorry. In common life. You see that there are three movements in this experience of fraternity. The movement that we can think positive, no? Mutual support. My brother can help me. I find somebody who is a friend with which I can talk about my difficulties, or I can joke together, or I can laugh together. But there is also an aspect of conflict. And I would like to say, if in your community you do not have conflicts, you are not a community. There is no loving couple, no loving family that has no moments of quarreling. The place where there are no quarrels, no problems, no conflicts is a graveyard, is the cemetery. So if in your community you find out that there are no problems, it means that you are dead to one another. You must have conflicts and you must solve them. Why? How? Learning to do the common discernment. These years of experience are fundamental to really try to find ways to live together in a way that is fruitful. If you find the way of solving problems among yourselves, you will be able to solve the problems of other people. Otherwise, you personally will do something and your brother will do the opposite thing. And the poor good child that is there will become worse than he was before. Experience of fraternity is really important. And I don't have much experience really, but I have the feeling that the seminary is not generally a good environment to have a good experience of fraternity. You must really try to want to do that experience. Experience of being guided. And there are two types of guidance. The spiritual direction, which I suppose all of you go through, and the spiritual direction is important, fundamental, because it really is supposed to touch your important life, your inner life with God. But at the same time, it is a bit sometimes dangerous. Because after all, the spiritual director generally has to keep the secret. Not generally, always has to keep the secret. The spiritual director generally knows you for what you tell him, not so much by seeing you in other situations. So you can mislead the spiritual director. Spiritual direction, once again, I tell you, is important, but it is important if it is well prepared also on your side. The other guidance, the guidance of obedience on the external aspects is also important. If you learn how to obey well, there was an Italian priest, Don Lorenzo Milani, that now I think they opened the cause of beatification, I think. He used to say, we have to learn to obey up to the point when it hurts, it is really difficult, in very little things, to learn how to disobey in important things. He was writing this in the moment in which the German Nazi were occupying Italy. But this may be valid also for us. Obey in the little things that you don't like, so that when you find out that your superior is telling you something that really is not good, you will have the courage to say, no, on this I will not obey you. But when you find out that it is really something that is not good, not because it is something you don't like. So learning how to be guided in spiritual matters, but also in practical matters, is something that is an experience you have to go through. Finally, the experience of service. Experience of service, experience of service with our good children, with our people, with whatever we are supposed to do for others, for the people we serve, but also trying to have an experience of service in the sense of looking at the poor, looking at the situation outside, imagining ways in which we, the Guanelians, could serve the poor. You are young. You are the ones that will build up the mission in a few years. Start thinking now, what could the Guanelians do? Not looking at what would I like to do, or what could my brothers do, but what do the poor around us, the ones that we are not serving now, what do they need? What could we do for them? Attention to them. And then experience of service, serving your brothers. And I didn't write it here, but serving the brothers you like less. Surely in a community you are 15, 20, I don't know, more or less, there is someone you don't like so much. Try to serve that person that is thinking of what may be needed to that person. This will help you a lot in learning how to serve in the future. And we go towards the end. So these 5 types of experiences are something that the superiors, the environment, are supposed to give you. If they don't give you, you have to find them. You have to find your own way to do it. Because if you don't have experience of God, if you don't have experience of fraternity, if you don't learn enough, if you don't have experience of service, you will not grow well to be a good Guanelian in mission. And to live well this period and to prepare well yourself during this period, you have to do this type of efforts. An effort to uncover, an effort to discover, an effort to recover. Of course, here we are talking about personal efforts that you have to do on your own person. What do I mean by these 3 covering? That is, no, they are all the opposite of covering. Uncovering, discovering, recovering. Uncover. Uncover yourself. You remember the passage of Elijah going to Mount Horeb, and God will come to meet him. God tells him, come out of the cave, stand out. That is the way to see God. Come out of your cave. So open up yourself in which way? First of all, being true to yourself. I don't know if you know the meaning of that strange word. Being true to yourself, it means give a name to whatever are your point of strength. Where are you strong? The S. You're strong in basketball, or you're strong in prayer, or you're strong in intelligence. What are your point of weaknesses? Where are you weak? What are your assets? What do I mean by assets? What are the things that you are sure you can produce and give to the community? You are a person that can crack jokes, so you can surely be a good member to bring relaxation and good humor to the community. That is an asset. Or you have a particular insight and intelligence, so you can help the community to judge situations. Or you are very strong, so you can carry tables from downstairs to upstairs. That is also an asset. And what are your limits? So strength, weakness, asset, limit, but being true to yourself. Sometimes we think we will be able to do everything. In the past, I thought I was quite good with languages. I found out that after a certain age, I'm not able to retain anymore. I have to recognize my limit. It's useless for me to try to, when I went to India, I don't try anymore to learn any Tamil word because I will forget it after 15 minutes. It's my limit. Each one has his own limits. Trying to simply not take into account our limits will hinder our work with others and will make me less true to myself. Once I am true to myself, then I can more easily be sincere with others. Because I don't need to find excuses. Okay, I have this limit. But at the same time, I have this strength. I can be sincere. And once I am true to myself, sincere with others, surely the openness to God's will come. So the first effort is to uncover. Why am I putting these things as personal effort? Because this is something, I think, on which you should try to do your daily examination of conscience. This is something that is personal day after day. To discover, first of all, what you're learning. Knowledge, whether you're studying philosophy, theology, but also learning skills, being able to do things. The world is full of things we can learn. Don't stop simply to study what they tell you and finish. Your mind is much larger than books. Of course, if you don't fill it with useless things. In particular, I would say, discover the world, discover cultures, the cultures of your confreres, discover people, know how people and how the world is made. It would be good, well, if we are, unfortunately, I don't like to talk at distance like this, because I would like to ask you what you know about the countries where the Guanelians are. Whether you know, for example, the names of some of the cities where our communities are in the world. It is important to know where your brothers are and what type of brothers we have in the world. But then discover the needs of the poor. Once again, this fact of discovering is an effort you have to put. In theology, they will not tell you about these things. In philosophy, they will talk about the human person generally, but not about the poor. The poor you have to find out yourself. So to uncover yourself, to discover the world around you, and to recover. This last part is a work that will also go on throughout your life. We talked about the strength, weaknesses, assets, and limits. But you will find that problems and limitations will always come out. So you have to find strategies. Our religious habit and our human dress are throughout life living a process of rending, tearing, and mending. Rending to tear, because something breaks, either I'm not able, or I break up with somebody, or I don't know something, or I'm not at peace. And I had to find how to start mending. So find strategies to overcome failures. Feel what is lacking in my preparation. Don't be afraid of going back to study something that you're supposed to know already. Father Bruno is there. They sent me, when I was in Ibadan, at a point, they asked me to go and give some courses in the Salesians School of Philosophy. Courses that I have never studied myself. I had to go back to study, to try to give something. But much more, find ways of peace. First of all, your internal peace, and then of external peace. Find ways. Sometimes you have to trick yourself. Somebody needs to run around the house 4 times so that he will cool down, and then everything will be okay. Another one will need to go and sleep so that things will be okay. Another one may need to start singing something. Don't be afraid of being silly. You have to find the way, because what is important is not to give an external aspect, but to find the internal peace and the methods of reconciliation. I think I have finished. Also because I think you are also almost finished. Huh? You must be tired. As you see, I have not spoken about the 3 stages and what you have to do and the studies you have to go through. Things were quite general, but I did it on purpose, because my wish is that each one of you can try to apply these little hints to his own personal situation and try to put into practice at least a little thing of this. Thank you. If you have questions or reactions, or if you want to tell me that I'm stupid, you can say, you can talk. I should remove the condizione. Okay, I removed it now.
Down.
Okay.
Now you avoid. Here there are 3 brothers who are preparing themselves. Imagine. No, who are in the immediate preparation, but they are going for 1 month of Ignatian retreat. So then they are going to write application for perpetual profession. So brothers, if you have some one.
Good evening, Father.
Good evening to you. I'm brother.
I also have read in the regulation about the period of temporary, saying about at least 3 years and at most 6 years. I was thinking it was our adaptation to the new time that we have to prolong to 9 years. My question is it okay that during our study, we still study, but we take our final profession after 6 years, then we continue to study? Is it okay? We have to study the whole period of study. After finish study, then we will proceed to the immediate preparation.
You said, sorry, can you repeat it again, please, the question? Because I'm not hearing very well. The problem is about the number of years, is it?
He's
Huh?
asking this, the numbers of years you said, duration of temporary vow to final vow. So it's 3 to 6 years. So they discovered that sometimes the brother was still studying, he has already exceeded those years. So his question is it possible that the brother after 3 years can ask the final vow while still studying, or after 6 years to ask for vow while still studying?
Yes. Now, I will tell you this. The practice we have in many places is actually that we exceed the 6 years. In many cases, we prolong, and it is possible to prolong up to 9 years. But what should be important is that the final vows, the final profession, is not something that goes along with studies. Vows are your life as a religious. It is not a matter of what level of studies I reached. So the importance of dialogue with your superiors and open dialogue with your superiors is important. I will give you my example personally. I was temporary professed and I was studying medicine in Italy at that time. When I reached the 4th year of medicine and of temporary vows, I spoke with my provincial and I told him, I am thinking not to wait for the 6 years, because the 6 years will be the moment in which I will have so much time to spend in the hospital, so much time to practical, that I will have no possibility of mind and of time to prepare for the final vows. And I actually did my final vows after 5 years. But of course, there is need of dialogue with your superior, with your provincial superior. So it is possible. Of course, in a situation, I was alone. So for me, it was easier. In a situation in which there is a group, it is a bit more difficult to do something like this. But in principle, it is possible. And even Father Alfonso was very strong on this, and others also keep saying it, that we cannot think that formation is something that you just pass the year and everybody goes on the same way. Each one has his own times, his own procedure of formation. So in principle, it is possible. It may be difficult in the seminaries.
Good evening po.
Good evening.
Francis Vilaro, Filipino. Just again, in connection with the previous question, no? Because we have been so critical in mentioning, especially if there is a request from temporary professor brothers, and usually we have this very critical this mentioning of ratio formation. And however, there is always kind of what is this inconsistencies with some aspect. No, it's very clear sometimes. Like to this brother or to this conqueror, it should be like this, and to this, and there are many special cases that we have been somehow discerning. And I was just reflecting. Maybe is it possible that this ratio formation also can undergo revision throughout this crucial time also now, because I don't know what year this ratio formation was created, but to somehow align it with this present time, not only with the cry of the brothers, but is also to really be clear in some aspects, no? Just to put a very clear example, like they said it's put in the Ratio Formationes that is 4-year theology. And for example, in the Philippines, you have Recoletos, they have only under 3 years. And they are required to undergo still 4th year, even though they already finished theology. So by that, it's actually somehow complicated in the view of even for those younger conquerors like me, that is in also this formation habit. So is it possible really to have this kind of revision or somehow clarification in some aspects of ratio formationis to be very clear? Thank you for that.
Yes. Well, personally, I don't think the ratio needs a lot of renewal, because there is the ratio itself gives possibilities of being open to different ways of but keep in mind that some restrictions, some aspects are coming from the canon law, so it's not even the ratio. For example, that issue of the 4th year for ordination is something that comes from canon law. That the basic theology formation can be sometimes 3 years. It depends. In different countries, maybe 3 years or 4 years. But whether it is 3 years or 4 years, there is need of a 4th year. So that is from the Vatican, not from our ratio. So for many other things, actually, the possibility of changes, of adaptations are there already, because in few things the ratio says it must be. And I think most of the issues in which the ratio is very, very strict are issues that belong to the common law of the church. anyhow, in 2 years' time, when you will be a superior, you can try to change the ratio.
Well, brother, uh, adding to what brother said now is something that has been coming in many of the meetings also this aspect. The fourth year, especially here in the program that we have, they consume the fourth year until the end, even though the courses are finished already in the school. Normally, the fourth year is just like in Congo now, we have 3 years, and the fourth year is just some courses at the beginning of the year. You will have maybe 2 or 3 courses, and later you are free. So in Africa, for instance, or in Europe, we have the brothers already, they make their final vows and their diaconate already before entering the fourth year. So after 3 years, they can request the final vows and then be ordained. Then the fourth year will finish, they are already deacon. And then they have 6 years or 6 months of experience. That same year, they are priests after. But here, not the same. That's really.
Yeah, well, that is, I don't know how the choice is made there. Usually, the fourth year has moments, periods of experience. It should not be simply, but well, I don't know, maybe the way of organizing there in the Philippines may be different. I don't have really the idea, but surely the possibility of there is need of having the fourth year, not for the profession, but for the ordination. That is sure. Then the fact of when to do the profession and how to do the fourth year, usually the fourth year is considered a year of pastoral, so it has to be with some pastoral experiences. The diaconate during the fourth year, I thought it was generally the norm. Now I don't know how.
Yes, of course, the question what they were asking also, it is true, no? Here because they undergo 4 years of theological studies, then previously also some students 4 years of philosophical studies. So totally many number of years they spend in intellectual dimension. So it's really, it is also questioning the formation which you were talking about, that one. Our regulations and ratio also, constitution and ratio also very clear. This immediate preparation to the perpetual profession should be the time of the prayer, time spent in prayer and the reflection. So in the formation courses also, we decided that since it is the fourth year, some students are attending classes, some classes with the thesis, some students have some flexible program. So we planned that these fourth year theology students, at least those who are in immediate preparation, they should be spent in different place and accompanied by the same superior, but having a separate kind of a formation, not necessarily whole year, but almost 6 months are because all the provinces they have their own schedules of charismatic preparation. Then what you told, some specific mission. So regarding that, we are in dialogue, the delegation and the delegate superior planning that time and the courses for this immediate preparation.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the aspect of the immediate preparation also has to be taken into consideration because it is important. Really, to keep in mind that it's not a matter of passing exams. Bene. I think I will allow you to go and relax. Is it still raining there? It finished already. Okay.
Thank you. If there is no any intervention, then we can conclude. We feel very thankful, brother Franco. It's very clear, the things, and in nutshell, you are able to bring out, especially they are at the eve of. We have 2 days only for the renewal of their vows. So we request your prayer from General Council. There are 14 brothers. They are going to renew their vows here in the hands of Father Luigi the Baptista. So, salamat po. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
Thank you. We will remember you surely.
we will have the photo taking, picture taking.
Picture taking with my face. Eccoli.
One. Please say clear or there?
We are recording. I give what?
Then not you with it. Para Raja, no problem.
Okay, Rajan.
Your old story. Yeah. But Bruno, you are not listening. Okay.
Bene. Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Ciao, Bruno. Bruno, do you already have any? Okay.
I wrote already. Oh my. No more.